California, which is the biggest prize of the primary with 415 delegates up for grabs, more than any other state. And Eyewitness News Washington correspondent Jessie Turnure is joining us now live from our Washington newsroom as she is keeping a close eye on the Super Tuesday returns. Jessie, thank you so much for joining us here. Now, one of your assignments is covering Tennessee, where the polls open today as some residents awoke to tornado damage. What are they doing there to accommodate those folks displaced by the tornado? Where are they voting, and how is that impacting voting?
Yeah, it sounds like because of those deadly tornadoes in Tennessee that about 24 polling places couldn't open, and so all of those voters had to be rerouted. And while that sounds like that could have really interrupted this crucial day of voting, the polling places, from what I've been hearing, most of them only had to open about an hour later. And so while it may be impacting voter turnout for people whose homes and businesses had a lot of damage, people who were injured, those other families dealing with the loss of loved ones, it sounds like the overall voting process has gone really as well as it could, and that they've been able to really kind of think on their feet here. What's interesting, too, is that this is not the first time that tornadoes have impacted Tennessee on Super Tuesday, even as recent as 2008.
Is that right? Wow, that is interesting. Well, let's move to Alabama now. Former Attorney General Jeff Sessions trying to reclaim his former Senate seat, but he's up against a pretty big primary field. How does it look for him?
Yeah, this is a very crowded field of Republicans, and they're all really trying to debate, who has the better favor when it comes to President Trump. Of course, Jeff Sessions and the president's relationship is pretty rocky, and that started once Sessions recused himself from Mueller's Russia investigation. And then he ultimately ended up leaving the White House on iffy terms, whether, he was fired or whether he left on his own accord. But that's what he's facing right now. And then you have Congressman Bradley Byrne, who's really trying to go on his record of really voting on the president's side. And then you have this newcomer to politics, former Auburn coach Tommy Tuberville. While there are other Republicans in the race as well, polling dictates that those are the top three, and it's looking like nobody may get enough votes to clear that threshold and challenge Democrat Doug Jones outright. So there could be a runoff in April.
Not surprising. All right. You also cover Arkansas, another very red state as well. How is it looking for Democratic primaries in these red states? Who is polling? Who is expecting to do well in these deep red states?
So going into this, especially off of Biden's South Carolina momentum, really people were looking at the South as kind of Biden's to lose. But now polling is suggesting that Bloomberg is catching up pretty quickly. And this is his first time on the ballot, kind of his first test before voters. And so you did mention Arkansas. Arkansas is really interesting here because that was essentially Bloomberg's first campaign stop. He filed back in November in person there. And of course, just like he has in other southern states, he spent millions of dollars on advertising. And so we'll have to see if that gamble of FaceTime and money ends up paying off for Bloomberg and essentially end up beating Biden in some of these southern states like Arkansas.
Well, Jessie Turnure, a lot to keep watch for tonight. We appreciate your insight, and I know we'll be talking to you a lot more over the coming days. Thank you so much for joining us.